Hi there, everybody. A fine morning to you. Fine morning to us in the Pacific Northwest. I wear my good hat today. Got that little PNW there. Got a little mountain. Got a little sunset. Got a little ocean going in there. I'm Doug Zanger, editor-in-chief of Indie Agency News. Our brief is simple: building the global home for independent agencies. Our mission is also very simple: to support independent agencies and the brilliant people behind them. And we are going to be bringing a few very brilliant people on here very shortly. But just want to remind all of you that you can go to indieagency.news. You can see what we're up to. One of our signature programs is Meet an Indie Agency. And a new one will be going up a little bit later today. Plus, you can pitch us. We have a very easy and friendly pitch form. So all you PR people out there, I'm trying to make this a little easier for you. So just go to indieagency.news. And there's a lot more coming up. As we grow this. It started as a lark in March. It turned into a thing in the summer. And now it's really turning into a thing. And I want to thank everybody who has supported us thus far, including all of the people I'm going to bring on here today. So let's bring everybody in, because we do have a very important topic. My gosh, I don't even know what to do here. I'm going to have to change that. I'm going to have to put this overlay in here, I think. Hold on. I'm going to have to change it. Yeah, let's drop that in there. We've got 5 people today. Oh my goodness. Nandini. Let's see. I got it. We're doing this on the fly. This is my Jeff Goldblum impression. We're going to put her title in there. So welcome to Tim, Claire, Nandini, Alexander. We are talking, check my ads, but we're also talking about how advertising, let's be honest, broke democracy. And I'll talk a little bit about their South by Southwest panel picker panel in a second, because this is where it all started from. Alexander sent me like, hey, we're going to do this. And I said, let's do a thing. Let's talk about this. And what we'll do is we'll go through thematically what the panel is about, but we do want to talk a little bit about a little bit more broad of a subject here. And Nandini and I have known each other for a while. Claire and I have known each other a little bit, and we're both we're both from similar geographies, which is always nice. And so here's what I want to do. Let's go through, as brief as possible, the underlying history of advertising and how it funded. I know, Alexander, shut up. How it funded misinformation, racism, and hate. And brief is probably not the right word here, but what I think this funnels into is, Claire and Nandini, how it all led to where you are. So I'll jump ball it over to one of you.
Dini, you want to take it?
Go for it.
I passed. It's like a 70s game show. Pass.
Like, why are we here? I sometimes wonder if, like, in 30 years time, if someone was like, hey, like, democracy was on the brink, and then the advertising industry helped to like bring journalism back and help to save it, like, what is the story that we will be able to tell then? And then it brings us to like, well, what was the original sin of the entire problem? And I feel like, correct me, advertisers on this show, if you disagree, but I think the original sin of advertising is that we thought for the last 25, 30 years that targeting individual people, like with personalized targeting, was going to be an answer to anything. And brand equity has gone out the window. And what that means is that the fundamental relationship between ads and the news has been dismantled and co-opted by middlemen. And that advertisers no longer have control over their own campaigns because the middlemen have said, don't worry, like, we'll get you to the right place at the right time and we'll do everything for you. And I think that's been the history for the last 20 years, is that advertisers have repeatedly given up power over their own campaigns.
Well, and part of this is, there's a laziness to that, right? Mm-hmm. There's absolutely a laziness to it where now it's framed in this idea of convenience. And I get that, because an agency has brand pressures or client pressures. Brands have revenue and share price pressures. So if somebody's coming to them saying, I have the magic solution to this problem, and then, for those of us who have been in advertising for a while, when you start looking at strategy, when digital really started in earnest, it was like, oh my God, I can talk to people one at a time in this cumulative method. But we didn't know necessarily what was going to be wrought on humanity. Alexander, I'd like you to wax poetic about that one.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about history, right, we can go back to, the old great, TV spots, TV shows, news programs, post World War II, black and white TV, where they would integrate the ad right into the show, right? I'm smoking this cigarette, I'm eating this soup. And it was very, very clear. Oh, this show just became an ad. I think as we got out of television and into digital, I think, I started out making banners. It's the early aughts. We're making banners, right? And there was companies like Point Roll that had these big takeover banners that you could do, right? And they all had these silly names, and they would give you silly toys at your agency. And then along comes, programmatic advertising, right? And automated technology for media buying. And there's always been another sort of silver bullet, right? Oh, here's another tool, another mechanic that's going to further disconnect you, advertiser, brand marketer, from the actual machinery of your advertising. I mean, it used to be very, very clear. If you were GE, you owned NBC at one point, and then someone checked me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Or you were, again, black and white TV show that had an ad integrated into it, circa Mad Men era. It was a lot clearer. But then we've completely decoupled all of that now, and an advertiser, brand X, has no clue where their ads are actually going. You used to lob them over and be like, oh, the Nielsen report's going to tell me that maybe some people watch TV, and they're still going to spend millions and millions of dollars on a 30 on the Super Bowl, but they really don't know who's actually looking at that. And now the same holds true for digital.
Mm-hmm. Nandini, and let's drive it into how you and Claire got started, because as all of this convenience begins, and to go back to what Alexander was saying, the heyday of banner ads, I think that there was a novelty to it. And I think that what I've noticed is something that starts out as, hopefully a good thing. There will always be nefarious players, and they eventually show up. They eventually figure out how to game the system to make things an absolute shite show. So talk a little bit about your journey with Claire and saying, hey, this isn't cool. We got to do something about this.
Yeah, my journey with Claire is now 3 years old, I think. 4 years old. So when I met Claire in 2019, I was running Sleeping Giants, and I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. It was really time consuming. It wasn't a paying job, and it was not something that I expected to do for the amount of time that I was doing. So what I found was that running this campaign, I was people seem to be getting comfortable with it. So the advertising industry, I saw one brand safety company blog about us being like, oh, you don't want Sleeping Giants to come get you in trouble, right? Buy our product. And I'm like, oh no, that's not the point of this. We're not gonna have a free crowdsourced Twitter account telling you where your ads are for the rest of our lives. Like, we need to come up with something bigger. We need to understand. And I really was curious to understand why, despite all of the product solutions, technologies, services, conferences, summits out there in the years after 2016, why was the problem still not solved? And so Claire and I set out to do some digging and understand the industry on our own. And that's that's where we started, from a place of curiosity and asking really like dumb questions. And dumb in air quotes, because they weren't dumb at all.
No, they weren't. No.
They're questions that people just like us in marketing don't have answers to and haven't felt comfortable asking. So
right. Alexander and I are the ones that ask the dumb questions. But what I'll say is what I find interesting, and Claire backed this up, because if you talk to, I mean, really, if you just any technology, right? So if we're talking about any technology, you're never going to get, it's like a politician, you're never going to get a straight answer, or you might. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, well, this does this, and then the thing does the thing. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Well, you'll need to talk to Fred about that. But he's an introvert and sits in his basement and eats ham sandwiches by himself in the corner. But go ahead, Alexander.
Well, I mean, but like a politician, I mean, a politician is in that position most likely because they were voted in by a base, and they have to be accountable to their base, right? And whatever demographic region they happen to be from. And just like, a adtech platform, and maybe this is a setup to get into adtech. I apologize. This is your show, but those companies need to be accountable to their shareholders, which is the same. I think the same logic.
Right. No, there is a logic to that. Claire, following up on what Nandini was saying, but where did it really hit for you? Like, yeah, we really got to dig into this.
Nandini and I are marketers, and like the tech stack that we were using to help B2B software as a service companies to build their audience is the exact same tech stack that is being weaponized against our community safety. And
wow.
It's like the internet is a marketing funnel. It was built as a marketing funnel. And of course, what that means is that if you want to radicalize people, if you want to propagandize, if you want to spread fear and distrust and disillusionment with our institutions, it is the perfect weapon to undermine democracy with. And so we needed to do something about it. We certainly needed to ask questions and figure out why, when advertisers have said the world over, do not put our ads on sensitive, irresponsible, or harmful treatment of sensitive social issues, we are in the worst disinformation crisis of the internet's age. Like, advertisers the world over have said, don't let us give resources, ads, money, data to people who are causing real world violence. And yet we're here. And the answer is that the middlemen have no oversight.
Oh, right. Tim, I want to move to you. So that brings up brand safety, and brands, and sometimes unwittingly, and this is part of the beauty of what Check My Ads does. They've helped fund these nefarious efforts, and there's been years and years of talk around brand safety. I mean, I remember going back in the day in radio where it's like, yeah, you can play this ad, but don't put it around Howard Stern, right? So that's very DIY, and that's just proving my age, but you can see that with my hair color. So Tim, a couple things here. Obviously, the work that the organization is doing is making brands and agencies more aware of where their dollars are going. But again, there still seems to be this level of just being perplexed or confused or exhausted or like, oh my God, what do I do with this? So talk about brand safety and how all of this manifests, and how brands and agencies are waking up, or they might not be.
I think they might not be, because if you look at any wrap-up report for a campaign, it's the amount of, especially if it's done poorly, the amount of engagement, the amount of clicks, this is the audience we reached, and it's all number-based. And I think that goes back into the OG question when advertising was still fun. Before Flash was great back in the day, we sent kids in school buses to Mars, and the internet was filled with puppies. Half of our money was wasted. We don't know which half, as the old quote goes. And then the big tech guys came in and said, hey, we can measure this, we can reach the audience, and people like that security. What went wrong is that the department and agencies, when we did newspaper ads or made soap operas, where people put the ads to make sure that your cruise ship ad doesn't show up to a disaster happening with a Titanic submarine on the front page. We got rid of those people because it was all automated. And there's just frankly a complete disconnect between what we do in creative and how we place media, which is silly, and the best indie agencies don't do that. And that's a massive problem to solve, in my opinion.
So let's dive into ad tech. It's opaque. Now, what has changed on both sides? So whether it's good or bad, what has changed? What hasn't changed? This is a 17-part question. What needs to be fixed and addressed? And that's a jump ball. Whoever wants that one first.
I'll jump in. The biggest change in ad tech, as far as our purview, is the introduction and modification of supply policies. So these supply policies were, I don't know what they were in 2016 when I first started working on this issue, but they regardless started to add more detailed language around hate speech, harassment, misleading information. At least one SSP that I'm familiar with has a don't overthrow the government clause in their prohibited content. So these supply policies have made it clear that they are first of all, that advertisers want more safety in their ad placements, and they want guaranteed safety. They at least they want it in writing, and B, it gives us something as for us as a watchdog. It gives us leverage,
right?
Because it allows us to. This isn't about our personal opinions. This is your policy, and we're asking you to enforce it.
Right. Claire, anything to add?
Yeah. So I hesitate to say this because this is getting really real. Okay, we are in one of the greatest, most powerful, all-encompassing authoritarian power grabs that America has ever seen. And the tools that we have to advertise and the internet that we use to get the news and to watch kitten videos is being weaponized against our safety and democracy. And what we need to do to ensure that democracy is maintained at a certain level and strengthened is we need transparency and we need accountability. And so this entire industry is going to have to step up at some point and realize that they have their hands on an arsenal for bad people. And so we need to know what's going on in the supply chains. We need to know who owns the ad tech companies. A lot of the SSPs, we can't tell, the sales houses, we can't tell who even owns these companies. And they are banks of money, ads, and data. They are like the last company along a chain of command. And they hold a lot of resources that propagandists need. They need ads because it gives legitimacy to their lies. They need money to sustain and grow their operations. And they need data to better and better target people who are susceptible to lies, hate, or who are undecided voters. They get all of this from the ad tech industry. And without transparency and accountability for bad actions on this supply chain, we are at risk of leaving the world wide open for this authoritarian power grab. And advertisers really do have some power here to make change, to make big change towards keeping our communities safe.
I'm going to ask about AI here in a minute, but I want to jump to, we've been obviously talking about a lot of things here, but what I want to do is I want to jump into, because Claire, you brought up an interesting point. Lots of interesting points, let's be honest. And Nandini as well. Alexander, not so much. But so we're focused on indie agencies, most of which are smaller, right? So sometimes, and I'm not trying to generalize this, but sometimes big industry, like let's just take the agency, like a holding company has a lot of people who are dedicated to trying to figure certain things out. This being one of them, right? Whether it's media buying, whether it's technology, whether it's text, whatever, right? Smaller independent agencies don't necessarily have those resources, and it can be very confusing. So let's talk about how an agency, and again, we're talking about independent agencies, a little bit smaller, they can better understand the issues related to this topic. And what can they do to ensure that they're doing the right things for their clients while also making sure that they're keeping keeping the money away from bad places? And that's, it's a jump ball for everybody.
How do they know?
So
There's no bad places chart. There's no, I've just came off of a campaign where, we produced a thing that went out into the world. And then there was a whole other team that was taking cut downs and versions of that and shipping that off to another entity for media, right? We have no idea where that goes. We didn't sit down and look at a chart. It used to be once upon a time, you would look at this flight and you'd have this whole list of here's all the sites and here's all the things. That got less and less and less. Those were always these exhaustive spreadsheets, but we could, to a degree, know where this stuff was going. Now, literally, we throw it over the fence because why? It's inexpensive, right? It's not going to cut into the margin of the project. And when brands are spending less and less and less and less, they'll still spend $5 on creative and $500 on a media buy, but that scale should be more one-to-one. And I believe it is in some of the smaller organizations that have media in-house. But you know what? It might just be cheaper. It's easier. Lob some stuff over the fence. We don't know really where it's going to go, right? Because it's opaque, as you mentioned, right? And these ad tech platforms, you can even run programmatic with Google. There's a publication recently that switched on programmatic with Google. I know someone who is responsible for that, and they have been swatting flies basically every other day, reporting an ad, reporting an ad, reporting an ad, reporting an ad. Because people are sending screenshots, and I'm also going to some websites with a VPN on and, DuckDuckGo to make sure that I'm not tracked, going to a website, going back to the publication, and basically gaming the system, but proving that, wow, I could, this one site is following me to this other one, and you could take a screenshot here, and this could be spun into an article that says, oh, this publication is running ads from this place. Whoa, that looks pretty bad. And then the individual who I know has to get the URL for the banner and then send it to a thing. And it's a process. It's a manual process. It's SneakerNet, right? It's like take the floppy out and go bring it over to the other computer. That's basically what you have to do.
That's so dumb, isn't it?
it's so dumb.
It's so ridiculous. And Tim and I talk about this sometimes too. The job of an advertiser is so full. You do focus groups, you get design work done. There's so much heart and soul and creativity that goes into creating an ad. And then at the very last minute, one of the most important things is who you're associating with, who your brand is associated with, where you show up. And you just give that to a third party?
Hey, why does context matter anyway? Just shove the context. And to echo what Alexander said first, back in the day, about 20% of the marketing budget went into creative and production, and 80% went into media. Creative and production has been definitely not going upwards, and still 90%. If no one can answer the question, hey, where is our ad? By the way, yeah, it's on the internet. It's going to be great. Yeah, no. I'd like to know where the billboard is bought or where my streaming is showing up. And we've all watched the show, and the same ad on our streaming service shows up 3 times in a row. How stupid is that? And it's so much money. And that's where if what Claire and Nandini have been doing for a couple of years now outperforms the tens of thousands of people with hundreds of billions of dollars in cash and even more in value that the tech companies can't solve, then I think it should be coming more from the bottom up, because the incentive is just completely wrong. And where indie agencies excel is bringing back the context of media plus smash it out of the park creative. And that is what could help solve this problem.
There just has to be a conversation, man. You just have to be like, everyone has to be sitting at the table going, okay, great. This is the media portion of this. How are we going to do it? Right? Here's the PR portion, the media portion. What's the strategy here? Oh, we don't want to go with this one because we know that this could happen. Okay, great. That's what, one meeting, one day, and you can come up with a strategy. But there is no fucking strategy.
Jeannie, should we talk about Chase Bank or should we talk about headphones.com?
We got we got a practical, we got a case study.
Talk about headphones because they're a small business.
We love case studies. All right. All right, Claire or Nandini, who's doing it?
You want to do it, Jeannie?
You go for it. I keep forgetting the exact numbers.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Good job.
Nandini and I, we're like a married couple. We have like each other's memories and we don't remember what the other person knows.
Right. Again, pass. I pass. All right, Claire.
Okay, so our friend Andrew Lissamore is the founder of headphones.com, and I met Andrew during COVID on it was like a beer Zoom for the industry, and which is so nerdy, but that's what we were all doing in like March of 2020.
Sure.
So I went to headphones.com because he was talking about it, and I was like oohing and eyeing over these beautiful products, and then I went to the Epoch Times that week to see the disinformation on the Epoch Times. And they were calling like the COVID virus, the CCP virus, okay, the Communist Party virus. And they were doing all kinds of
they're not even good at wordplay or puns. Please continue. Go ahead.
There was an ad for headphones.com there. And so I contacted Andrew and I was like, hey, do you know that you're funding the Epoch Times? And he was horrified. He ended up going to his ad tech vendor called Criteo. And he said, Criteo, like, I need to check my ads. Let me see what's going on. And he had gone to the dashboard and had found that Criteo was hiding certain parts of his ad campaign. And so he lobbied to get his full campaign data. And then once he realized where the ads were actually going, he was horrified to see that they were going to places in the world where he did not even send headphones. And they were going to a lot of Android apps. And he decided to change his approach completely and get rid of like geographic regions and, just optimize a little bit. Now, this is typical small company. Andrew is technically sophisticated. This can happen to anyone. His spend went from $1,200 a day to 5% of that. I think it was $40 a day.
It was $40 to $50 a day.
$40 to $50 per day. He had no change in that advertising campaign's performance. We just by letting him know that his ads were on Epoch Times, that one move saved him more than $30,000 per month. For a small business, that's enormous.
Right.
And I think we met up with him a couple years later, and he's like, yeah, my ad budget's a lot bigger now. And if we extrapolate, the value of that audit, that's millions of dollars.
His company is doing great.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's like the, when it comes down to like, can we afford to have employees or to hire new employees to our company? That right there makes a big dent.
I mean, it's a slick site. I'm looking at it right now. So.
It is. So like, but the problem is not like, oh, you should check your ads and like do the geographic performance that is necessary. The problem is that Criteo was hiding data. Okay, so you have to check your ads. You have to advocate for yourself to get your log level data, minus like personal information. We don't need that from people, but we do need to know where exactly your ads are going. And we have to do that upfront work. To Alexander's point, we strongly recommend doing inclusion lists.
Okay. Yeah, hit on that because a lot of times it's the exclusion as opposed to, so, okay, I like where you're tracking this because this is a very practical thing that a small agency can understand and act on very easily.
Yeah, so the idea, like Alexander's point was that like, well, how do you know where the bad guys are? That, if you're thinking like that, the bar is on the floor for you. Like, your standard of advertising needs to get higher than that. You have to be an advertiser or a marketer, and you just have to do your job. And what that job is to identify where you want to be. not where you don't want to be. Raise the bar for who you want to be associated with. Now, Chase Bank did this. Chase Bank had a site list of 400,000 websites where they were on. Well, I guarantee you, even though their consumers are absolutely everyone, I guarantee you people are not mostly going to 400,000 sites. There is a massive long tail in that bar graph that you can cut off. And so if you're selling something, well, maybe you want to be on recipe sites, maybe you want to be on sports sites, and identify what those are, what the biggest ones are, and only be there. Because when Chase Bank cut their inclusion list from 400,000 to, what was it, 5,000 websites?
Uh-huh.
Again, their performance stayed exactly the same. And they didn't have to worry about brand safety anymore because they knew the sites that they wanted to be on. They knew they wanted to sponsor those websites and to be associated with those websites. Not at an article by article level, but at a domain level.
Right. Well, yeah. And so if you're at the domain level, then you could probably say, we don't want to be attached to articles like X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, if you want to, but again, like if you're on the news,
simple way. But that's a simple way to get it in the right spot.
Exactly.
I think it's a different. It seems like a different, maybe a alternative option, a new ad tech option needs to be created.
What would that be, Alexander?
I think a partnership with a series of platforms, almost like a badge of sorts, like Better Business Bureau, or any of those stickers and badges you see on some e-commerce sites. Maybe it's you're part of a program, you're part of a club, you're part of some organization that gives a kind of a seal of approval,
like NewsGuard.
Right? Yeah, anything along.
Whoa! Violence!
Whoa! All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
Let's go.
NewsGuard is that, and
Mhm.
they gave up till about I think a year ago. They had so they have a rating system of 0 to 100. So let me just step back for it. So NewsGuard is a organization, like fighting against disinformation, and it's run by two Wall Street Journal former executives, and they have a team of reporters, and they rate websites online, media outlets, and they rate them on a scale of 0 to 100. Above 69.5 is, I think, like they say generally credible, and then it goes down from there. It used to be green and red, so they would, like green is credible, red is not credible, and then they have a nutrition. What is it? They have like a nutrition facts label. I don't know. They have some kind of like a report where they allegedly, give you context on the outlet and stuff that they've done in the past. And through that objective, a thorough analysis, they gave Fox News a green, generally credible rating for and their report a year after the J6 insurrection had absolutely no mention of Fox's role in promoting said insurrection. And then I saw that I went through some of their other listings. Daily Caller is rated as credible, the same level as the New York Times and Washington Post. Daily Signal, a project of the Heritage Foundation, which invented critical race theory, 100 out of 100. And not to mention Daily Wire, they don't mention once that Matt Walsh, the troll that most recently aired developed a documentary to harass trans people, works there, and they don't mention that at all. So if you want to go into that territory, I tell you that's dangerous territory.
And I think that brings up a good point, because misinformation is one of the biggest threats to democracy, and great information and fantastic journalism are absolutely paramount to sustain that. But because you've got organizations like NewsGuard and brands just want a quick and easy solution, we will not show up our ads in articles that mention elections or how Black Lives Matter. And then that complete bit of the internet gets defunded, while these are absolutely essential topics when there's quality information that are worth reading about and worth spreading. But if they're not being funded by ads, then the newspapers will not write about them, because it's all about engagement, and which is a terrible term, because if you're not getting on one knee, you should not be using the term engagement. Make it specific.
Wow.
None of these conversations are happening
No.
at
No.
the agencies at all. So being way down at the production end of this, producing the content that goes into the box, that gets onto the website. I have never been in a meeting where any of this was ever mentioned, right? Where the CMO was like, let me see that. Can you put the list up on the screen, please, of the sites that we are going to advertise on and the sites that I specifically do not? Because that CMO is in control and could go from whatever that, $40,000 to $5,000 per day, or whatever that, reduce the number, reduce the cost, see no change in performance, and go, wait a minute, why did I just spend so much money on this spray and pray media buy
Right.
across all these goddamn websites?
Absolutely. The first agency to say, we don't charge based on a percentage of your ad spend is the agency I would trust faster.
Talk about that a little bit more. Yeah.
The fact that the incentives of the agency are to spend as much money as possible on the internet and to be in as many places as possible and to get those KPI, high performance indicators up and the CPMs low is all a problem. The idea that we can measure success with these numbers and with like a low cost per million view, not cost per million, cost per mil, is dumb and harmful. And if I was an advertiser and I had an agency tell me, oh, we'll just take a cut of your budget, then my instinct would be to say, well, your job, therefore, is to spend as much of a budget as possible. I would so much rather agencies use a flat rate and then understood brand equity.
Right. Because that goes back to the essence of why advertising works in the first place, is putting it, and to Alexander's point and to Tim's point, putting in the hard work to create things that matter to drive a business forward. Those are the fundamental things. Where it goes, yes, obviously very important, but the fact that we're forgetting that hard work, and I will say, just because we're independent agencies, we all know how hard indies work. Not to say that holdco companies and agencies don't, but there is a different cut to the jib of an independent agency where there's a little bit more, I don't want to say more pride, but it's like there's blood, sweat, and tears that are different, that are just a bit different. And so the fact that, to Alexander's point, that it just gets cast to the wind is so disheartening. But Claire, you're absolutely right. We think so quickly about trying to move forward, and code for that is technology, as opposed to just being good at the fundamentals that got us here in the first place when it was good. Now, listen, I'm not saying everything was perfect. Far from it. But this idea of brand equity, here's a KPI, corporate speak for you here. The KPI that I actually love hearing now from brands is brand lift, or brand, to your point, Claire, brand equity. Those types of things, as opposed to all the numbers. Fine, great. Some of which may not be worth anything, but I like the idea of going back to some of the fundamentals, but making them better. So Alexander, I first of all, I want to say that I think that we all can agree that so thank you for pointing out the certification, but I think we all can agree that this would be a certification that we would all like. So Alexander, why don't you go ahead?
That's not
the Alexander seal of quality.
So approved. But Alexander, talk about, and Tim, I want you to jump in on this too. Like the real like the importance of that quality and the importance of fighting for the good ideas, the great ideas.
I'm just, I go to weather.com, shameless plug for weather.com.
Right.
I'm work for IBM, but weather.com, there's 100 ads. It's a dumpster fire of ads on this site, and none of them are influencing me or driving purchase behavior or brand lift or brand affinity or brand equity. A site like this is like those stickers, like the band stickers that are in the bathroom at the venue. Like
Right.
you don't see any of, like, you don't remember unless you put that sticker there, you probably don't remember any of the other band stickers that are in the bathroom. Right. It is all noise. Right. I was on X earlier today, formerly Twitter, and the most atrocious ads are coming up on there now. It blows my mind. It is turned into the bathroom at the punk bar. Like it is wild on there.
Alexander, bathrooms at punk bars do not deserve to be called out like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's far worse on X. It is an absolute shit show to follow the bathroom.
I was blocking. I was like, oh, I never tried to block an ad on here before. Let's see if this actually does anything. And you just have to, there has to be a conversation where, and maybe the in-house media at some of these independent agencies, not going to give a free plug to anyone, but maybe they're actually having these conversations, because the large holdco agencies probably might not ever, because there would be a financial hit if they chose to have these conversations. Just say, hey, we're not going to run anything, right? We're not going to run anything. This really, spray and pray approach. We're only going to focus on these few things and do high quality content in these particular verticals. We're going to do maybe experiential. We're going to do maybe out of home. Not saying those are the best, but you know who's going to see that in those executions. Maybe we'll work with an influencer, but we don't have to run ads in this large, keep on saying spray and pray. I apologize, but it's just like, that's what it is all the time.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Just say, don't do it. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that.
And that is, and it also tremendously pisses me off, because that's the problem right there. Like big holding companies, there's so many great indie agencies popping up, because the adult supervision from big holding companies is mostly leaving the building. And the people that are left are just trying to squeeze out as much value at the quarterly earnings, because shareholders. But how can you invest in a thing that is actively, by either innocent ignorance or just terrible behavior, destroying democracy? And that's where smaller agencies, I'll give a free plug to Media by Mother as the cash register.
Oh, they're
Yeah, that is like, hold on, that's a smart solution run by some adults who said, hey, here's what's happening, here's why it's good for your brand, here's what we're going to do, and here's what will make for better creative. Because if your job as an agency is to make more money for your quarterly shareholder meeting than to do that brand lift thing, to bring that back,
Right,
you're in the wrong business. Get out there.
Hey man, it's publicly traded companies. They are what they are, right? They got to create. You have to create value for shareholders. Yeah. Totally get it. Can't blame a scorpion for being a scorpion. Totally, that's just the way it goes. But don't pull the wool over my fucking eyes and tell me that it's all going to be about creative and people and culture. No. It's about driving fucking revenue. So that's what our core our belief is. So that's the story here, folks. If you don't like that, go work for a smaller place. Because or go start your own thing. Like every day you go on Ad Age and there's a new team of executives left big company to start smaller thing. There's a reason they're doing that.
Okay, I agree. But if I may.
Oh, I like where this is going already. Please, Claire, continue.
The job of having a brand is the same job as having character. And if you are a person and you see something that is out of line, inappropriate, harmful, dangerous, violent, and you don't say something, it says something about your character, and it says the exact same thing about a brand when a brand is doing something to cause harm in the world, and when people notice and the brand does nothing. Mm-hmm. We're in a moment in history where there is a global authoritarian power grab. Okay, they are intentionally spreading lies and scapegoating marginalized populations for political gain and for financial gain. And this war is happening largely in the boardroom, because we are having attacks on Target, we're having attacks on Bud Light, we're having attacks on ESG investments, environment, social, and government investments. They're calling businesses that are trying to do good by the people woke capitalism. And it is up to us as employees of companies to stand up and say, oh, it's too far. We're going to do a different thing. And that is not a question of like morals versus shareholders. Those two things are aligned. It is bad for a business to have a fascist government that is unpredictable and does whatever it wants. It is good for business to have democracy. It is good for business to have good, solid healthcare and good, solid community safety where we're not dealing with shootings every day. These are good things for business, and it is perfectly aligned with shareholders to take these things into consideration when you are stewarding your brand. So I don't want to have this be a binary here. It is
No. No, you're 100% right. So, you've got the boardroom. You also, where's the shareholder activism? But let's have another, that we're well over time. Not that I really assigned like how long this was going to be in the first place.
You don't have to appeal to advertisers.
We're doing it differently here at Indie Agency News. So we're handpicking. We're handpicking partners that we believe are going to be good partners to independent agencies to help them grow their businesses in the right way. There you go. There's a pitch for you. Briefly, Alexander, let's talk a little bit about AI coming at us hot and heavy. And let's start with you, but everybody, I'd like to, we can do a little around the world here. AI is a, I don't want to say it's a complicating factor, but it might be. But in giving us a little brevity, because it is still early days, early doors, as the Brits like to say. Where is this going to throw a wrench in everything? Let's start with you, Alexander.
Oof. Well, I mean, I just think it's we all went to bed in 2022 with metaverse and woke up in 2023 with AI. There's a new Gartner cycle. I mean, Gartner really dropped the ball with charging for that chart, because there's always a Gartner hype cycle chart with my favorite, the trough of disillusionment in there. And there's trends I've seen now. People are posting like, are we, chat GPT usage going down, blah, blah, blah. It's always a wave, right? It's always another distraction against, thinking about other things that might matter more. Generative AI, right? The ability to create text and images and video by, prompt engineers, the hottest new job title out there, is a thing. It's real, right? Can we now be creating ads faster? Yes. I'm sure, I don't know. I honestly don't know if it's a negative or a positive. I could think of a positive, because I know that we can parse text on a site, parse a website faster, maybe influence the content that is going to be on the page. There's the speed of recognition that these tools could create, which could be a benefit, but then a negative could be we could be creating content wildly at scale with no oversight, because the machine can do that.
Yeah, Claire, Tim, Nandini, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, and then I think that's the danger with if you throw a troll army to spout disinformation at it, at least you need humans. And still, if you have to diffuse bullshit, or what it's Brandolini's law, to go back to the bathroom at the punk rock concert, the bullshit asymmetry. It's really easy to get lie out in the world. It takes a lot of time to diffuse it. And with AI, the bullshit machine is going to be overpowered. If we only had a smart bunch of production and a small mind indie agencies that could figure out tools in order to figure out what is real and what is not real.
But but we could use it as an we could use it,
Yeah.
you know, the machine could be turned against all that and be able to process content and find bad actors at a higher rate. Because
I see a head shake. Nandini?
I don't know.
Nothing shakes my head faster than hearing about AI solutions to disinformation. They already exist and none of them work.
Yeah.
If they did, we wouldn't be here, right? Our goal here, I just said this week on LinkedIn, is to go out of business. So no one wants this faster and harder than me, and I speak for myself. I don't want to.
Both of us.
Yeah, we don't want to. Yeah, Claire and I don't want to be doing this. So we are looking for the fastest solution. And if AI was a solution, we would be doing that. But that is not the solution. What we have found in our research is that the people who run these operations are smarter than that. They're not just going to dump stuff on the internet using AI. They are using the advertising technology ecosystem to create LLCs and multiple seller accounts. And when they get banned from something, they go sneak back in under a different new name. And the ad exchanges look the other way. The ad agencies maybe don't seem to care or seem to understand. And advertisers are not aware of the ways that they are taking advantage of the system. So AI is not going to help that. We just need to, again, echoing Claire, do our jobs, like due diligence.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because I mean there is no in the AI is not a thing, right? There's generative learned language models. There's all this noise that's out there. I'm very curious as to what frustrates me is that the lump categorization of AI in the media and how it's just one thing. And
right.
is there, you know, there's so many pieces of it and it could be used for so many different things, probably most of them bad in a way to save money or make money. We're going to engineer something that is going to be, like you said, generating more negative than positive. But, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, the tide turns and we get down out of this hype cycle of AI and we actually can be focusing on more better things like the upcoming election, for example, which AI will probably be unfortunately playing a negative part in.
Right. All right. So we've talked for a long time. I want to end on a high note. I want this to be approved. We're going to end on a high note. You know, Alexander, we kid because we care. That's all out of a place of love first. And you know that.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
He didn't see.
I said this is all out of a place of love. He heard everything. No. Like the two whack job morning show DJs are here.
That's right.
Okay. I want to start, Tim. I want, and this can be one statement, but keep it brief. What gives you hope for all of this? What gives you hope?
That, like I said it before, about that two women have done what collective $1 trillion companies couldn't do. Like, imagine if we throw in some more smart and nice people that actually have a heart. That gives me hope because there's a lot of smart and nice people out there.
Cool. Claire?
The thing that gives me hope is that all around the world, we are seeing marketers and advertisers and brand safety officers stand up and do something about this. I know Alexander said that we don't see these conversations. Oftentimes it's hard to bring these conversations to the boardroom. We're finding that people are, and that is exciting.
That's a very good development. Nandini.
Yeah, I have to echo that. I'm so impressed and in awe of the brave people that are bringing up conversations in their offices that were previously, not previously, that are still difficult, and they do it at the cost of potentially losing their jobs, losing out on promotions. And that's something to really be proud of. And those are the people that are giving me hope, because they're going to make the biggest change.
That's great. That's great. Alexander?
I would like to I hope that we can shed some light on the dark arts of media buying and get this conversation happening when we're doing the strategy for the campaign with the CMO.
Yep, I like it. I did not mention the South by Southwest session, but a lot of what we talked about today would be in the, it's up for the panel picker. So we're waiting to hear back from South by Southwest, and when optimism, Pacific Northwest optimism. When it gets chosen, we will direct all of you to that session. And also a reminder that you can go to checkmyads.org, become a checkmate. Full disclosure, I have been a checkmate since the beginning, and supporting Nandini and Claire's work. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but I'm trying.
It's the amount of people, not the amount of money. We want more people.
And listen, I took a lot of inspiration as I'm building the membership model for Indie Agency News. Subtle plug. I've taken a lot of inspiration in how you're approaching it, because it is about bringing the community together and more accessibility, and that's really important. So again, go to checkmyads.org, and to Tim, Claire, Nandini, Alexander, on behalf of everybody, that's just me. Actually, I'm going to tell you this right now. Again, I go back into my Jeff Goldblum voice here. I have somebody out here in Oregon that I may bring on to help out with a few things, and she might start doing some live interviews as well. So it's not just me. Thank God and baby Jesus, right? But on behalf of all of us at Indie Agency News and all the supporters of Indie Agency News, I can't thank you all enough for the support. Alexander being one of those prime supporters as well. Thank you for joining us, and stick with us at indieagency.news. Also, check us out on LinkedIn. We share a lot of stuff over there, and we will see you all next time.